After we load the project that we created with the Spring Initializer in IntelliJ, we are going to check just the structure that was created. Because it's a Spring Boot application, we're going to have this class here, and in the Gradle Kotlin file will be all the dependencies that we created. So we want to build the first feature, and the first feature is going to basically do a search of films in the DVD club. So we're gonna do a search, a partial search by title. So it means if we type partially a word, it might give multiple results in return. So the very first thing we want to, even before we start to implement the feature, is to do a stability test. So in this video I'm going to just do the stability test. So we can run the app in with the Spring Boot. We can just press play here, or we could type in the terminal boot run. So this will run our app. Now notice that it says it has failed to start because it expects the URL for the database. So yes, because we said that this application is going to use a database, but we didn't configure it. One thing that we can do for now is to exclude, tell to Spring to disregard the database configuration for now, and we can do this. We can exclude the data source auto configuration class, and we are going to remove it once we are ready to start the database. So if we run our app again, now the app runs. We can go to the browser, and we are going to see this error. So it says an error, which means it didn't find anything, because there is no APIs, there is nothing exposed. So the app is just running in that port, but there are no endpoints, there's nothing. So we need to create our first endpoint. So I'm going to create a package following the convention. I'm going to call it web, and this is going to be the API layer of our app. And I'm going to create a film controller. So this controller is going to be responsible to input anything that has to do with the management of the films. I'm going to use the annotation REST controller, and I'm going to create a function for the search feature. So function called search, and so the input is going to be of type string, and in return we said there might be multiple films that match the pattern or the partial pattern. So we're going to return a list of string. And so for now, I'm going to just return a list which is going to say implement me please. So this is going to be just what this endpoint is going to return. To make it an endpoint, because it's going to be a get endpoint, we're going to use the get mapping annotation. So if we run now the app again, there is still going to be an error, and I'm going to explain why. If we go to localhost 8080, it tells us that film controller search parameter input cannot be null. So, because there are no endpoints in the app yet, and this is the only one we created, by default it goes to it. So, it actually is expecting an input, but we are not passing any input when we just go to localhost 8080. We need, for now, to make this, one way around this is to make this optional or nullable. If we run again the app, now we get implement me please. So this is the beginning of the coding. I call this stage stability test, in which I want just to create a minimum amount of code that will confirm that my application works end to end. In the follow-up videos, we will remove the exclusion to connect to the database, and we will implement this feature so that we can search the data that we have in the DVD rental database we already created.